absorption of horizontal forces. Such a floating dock was built at Thyssen-Nordseewerke in the meantime. After the ceremonial christening, the dock slides into the water. In the assembly shop, the installation of the propulsion motor is under preparation prior to slipping it into the aft section. The propulsion motor, weighing some 80 tons, is the largest and heaviest piece of equipment to be installed. This installation must be carried out in a particularly careful and precise manner, since the aim is to obtain the best possible alignment of the motor with the propeller shaft. After alignment, the propulsion motor is bolted to its foundation. The pressure hulls of submarines have to be perfectly circular within very narrow tolerances to enable them to withstand the enormous outside pressures of oceanic depths. The roundness is checked using two methods which complement each other: the compass method and the measuring bridge method. The data obtained is evaluated using a computer program. After the sections have been almost completely fitted, they are assembled part by part. The pressure hull is now finished. While the pressure hull is being closed, the free-flooded sections are mounted. After the installation of all the larger pieces of equipment, the aft section is finally slipped towards the main body. By using a mounting ring and hydraulic presses, the welding edges are aligned, assembled, and the circular seam subsequently welded. Even before completion of the first submarine, the working on the first sections of the second submarine is already being carried out. The energy storage for the operation of the submarine consists of over 900 battery cells. These are brought one by one into the boat, distributed among the 4 battery rooms in accordance with an installation plan, and electrically hooked up by copper bus bars. advanced construction stage, the upper deck structures and the tower of the submarine are mounted on the hull. These structural parts are free-flooded during submerged operations. The diver's lock. The torpedo loading hatch. Both diver's lock and torpedo hatch are of pressure-proof design. Vertical and horizontal rudders and the propeller are mounted on their shafts. Their hydrodynamical form ensures the outstanding maneuverability of the submarine. Instead of the traditional launching, a special procedure is employed to let the submarine to water. First, the boat is hauled onto a floating dock. After years of planning and design work, the day has finally arrived. The submarine is so far completed that it can be slipped into its element. The doors of the assembly shop are opened, the floating dock securely positioned against the pier. A rail track and a greased launching way leading right up to the edge of the quay have been installed. Several pressure measuring cells are installed along the way to monitor the continuous shifting of weight. Their readings are registered by electronic devices. The pullout represents a technical challenge to Thyssen Nordseewerke, since it requires that a hull of over 60 meters in length and over 1,500 tons in weight be transferred from firm ground to the floating dock. The critical moment is reached when the weight of the submarine passes from the quay onto the dock. In tandem, two hydraulic rams push the submarine out of the shop. It rests on a sled, which runs on the greased way across the quay area and into the floating dock. The entire pull-out procedure takes a full day. Tugs shift the floating dock containing the submarine to alongside the quay, where the solemn ceremony of the christening is under preparation. In the presence of distinguished guests, shipyard personnel, and the future crew, the first submarine of the TR 1700 type was named Santa Cruz.
Als Vertreter des Oberbefehlshabers der argentinischen Marine begrüße ich Herrn Konteradmiral Rodríguez.
Para honor de la Marina, mi Marina, para gloria de mi patria, nuestra patria, yo te bautizo. Santa Cruz.
Following the launching ceremonies, the submarine is set afloat by submerging the floating docks. Berthed in Thyssen-Nordseewerke's floating dock, TR-1700 is ready to be transported to the shipyard's own submarine harbor, where outfitting will be completed. The floating dock is flooded. It sinks and the submarine is afloat. Now for the first time the submarine travels in its element, though only for a short distance and not under its own power. Two tugs tow the boat out of the floating dock over to the installation pier. TR-1700 is moored, and now the final stages of installation can begin. More than 90% of the work has already been completed in the shipyard's covered assembly shop. All of the remaining work will be completed here at the pier, particularly those jobs which, for technical reasons, were not possible inside the assembly shop, such as mounting the periscopes, a procedure requiring utmost care. The periscopes must be fitted and sighted with optimal accuracy. Upon completion of these jobs, the submarine is first tested at the pier. During this pier-side test, the function of all the equipment is tested. Above all, these tests check whether the equipment, together with the entire systems, functions efficiently. Submarine operations are subject to strict safety regulations. Compliance with these regulations in every detail must be guaranteed before the submarine can undertake its first voyage. It is now time for a first trial run at sea. To assist in the testing, Thyssen-Nordseewerke employ the Poseidon, one of its own ships equipped expressly for this task. Within a short period of time, the first two TR-1700 submarines undertook their sea trials. The second boat bears the name San Juan. First, the submarine's surface handling characteristics are examined. Maneuverability is tested. To test these boats, Thyssen-Nordseewerke have enlisted a complete crew from the ranks of their own specialists. This highly qualified team first undertakes an operational demonstration of the performances as stipulated by contract. At the same time, the shipyard crew introduces the future crew to the boat's operation. The operational data of the TR-1700 submarine is the following. Submerged speed, over 24 knots. Snorkel speed, about 15 knots. Surface speed, 11 to 13 knots. Diving depth, over 270 meters. Operating range at economical speed, over 17,000 nautical miles. Submerged range at economical speed, about 500 nautical miles. Endurance at sea, about 70 days. Crew, 29 to 35 men. Underwater tests are conducted in accordance with a meticulously detailed test program. Diving and surfacing are practiced under the most diverse conditions. The trial runs are conducted in maritime areas where sea depths permit deep diving tests. These are necessary to ascertain whether all systems function smoothly under extreme stress. Navigation at periscope depths, a hydrodynamic fairing reduces the periscope's water resistance. As a result, increased cruising speeds are possible. And brain of a combat ship such as this high-tech submarine is the weapons system with its firing control system, sensors, and projectiles. No wonder testing these central systems complexes requires the greatest attention and an unusual amount of time. The synchronization of the weapons system is tested time and again in numerous testing phases in every possible situation and under the most diverse conditions. The weapons system constitutes an entity comprised of sensors, like sonar devices and periscopes, of computers and torpedoes. The electronic firing control system constantly calculates the coordinates to fire each torpedo. It reaches the surface at high speed. When air is blown into the ballast tanks, the submarine surfaces. The retractable masts are tested. While the submarine is cruising with its snorkel, seen here on the left, the periscope and antenna mast are also in position. The thoroughness that went into the construction of TR 1700 is also evident in these trial runs, which lasted several months. During this period, the Santa Cruz, for example, covered 13,000 sea miles, the equivalent of about 24,000 kilometers. That is more than half the Earth's circumference. More than 1,000 hours were spent traveling submerged. Following completion of all these tests, in which overall contractual performance requirements were met and partially even substantially surpassed, the Santa Cruz can be turned over to the clients. The traditional ceremony takes place in Emden in October 1984 in the presence of leading personalities, numerous guests of honor, and the employees of Thyssen Nordseewerke.
Im Namen der Geschäftsführung der Thyssen Nordseewerke,
The first captain of the Santa Cruz is Commander Miguel
die
Rela.
Armada Argentina von unserer
The ceremony is opened by Thyssen Nordseewerke's board of directors.
herzlich willkommen heißen. Muchos años, los
The
argentinos.
deputy chief of staff of the Argentine Navy accepts the ship. The German flag is lowered. The crew's youngest officer has the honor of raising Argentina's flag for the first time. After this ceremony, the crew takes command of the new submarine. Before the boat begins its long voyage across the Atlantic, the Argentine crew undertakes another training run on its own. Compared with the proverbial cramped quarters of earlier submarines, the size of the TR-1700 submarine allows the crew to enjoy a spacious, even luxurious accommodation. On November 15, 1984, the Santa Cruz casts off in Emden and heads for Argentina. On this voyage of 6,900 sea miles, the boat covered 6,300 sea miles non-stop without surfacing, from the Bay of Biscay to its final port at Mar del Plata without incident. As far as is known, that is to date the most extended submerged run ever completed by a diesel-electric submarine at the outstanding average speed of over 10 knots, without the slightest mishap and in a remarkably short time. On December 14th, within a scant month, the Santa Cruz surfaced in front of the Mar del Plata submarine base. According to the captain, the boat still had enough fuel and supplies on board for an immediate non-stop return run to Emden. Following such impressive proof of its efficiency, Thyssen-Nordseewerke's TR-1700 submarine is headed for a promising future.